Hello world! Yeah, it's been a while since I've made the videos lately. So here I'm about to teach you something really simple. Something beginners to start off with. Well, I have troubles with this, so let's enjoy. So what I'm about to teach you today is something called stops. You might heard teachers or pro photographers say stops and everywhere in their camera and their flash studio works and so on. They keep on saying stops. Well, that bothers me because I don't know what stops are. So went and researched a little bit and found out what stops are. Now, as you all know, the stops, and this is the EV, your exposure compensation stuff, your +1, +2. Now, +1 over here is one stop of extra light you're gonna let in your camera. -1, yeah, less one stop. So if you move this to over here, that means one stop, and another one means another stop. Similarly, the other way, one stop and another stop. Now this is the stop that we all know. It's called the EV. But what about stops like the shutter speed, the aperture value, and the ISO? Now they're actually very simple, and I'll show you the difference between like the beginner's camera and also the mid-range camera to see the difference. But to tell you the truth, there are no difference at all. So first off, we can start off with the ISO, which is on the right over here of the screen, you can see. Now there's the range in this camera is from 100 all the way up to 12,800. Now ISO is a little bit simple. One stop of an extra ISO. So let's say, for example, you're starting with 100. The next stop of it is twice the amount of the one you're choosing. So for example, you're choosing 100 for now. You want one stop, just 200, because it is twice the amount of the one before. Now if you're 200, the next stop is 400 because it's twice of this. 800, twice of this. 1600, twice of 800, and so on and so forth until we reach 12,800. They're all the same for any ISO range. So here I have another type of camera, this 60D. Any type of mid-range to professional cameras, the ISO range has a bunch of numbers in it. So first we can take a look at this 100. Obviously the next stop is gonna be 200 because it's twice the amount of 100 over here. But you notice something simple when you're using like a 6D or a 7D or so on, 5D. Each stops are 3 clicks away. So you take a look, 1, 2, 3, that's one stop. There's another stop. There's another stop. There's another stop. There's another stop. That's another stop as well. And then boom, that's the next stop. You can change it in the settings to only show the next stop afterward, which is simply going to this menu, the first one, and in page 2 you can see ISO speed setting increments. You can set up a third stop or just one stop. Put at one stop, it will black out all the others and only show you the one stop increments. So it makes your life easier. But then if you like to have those third stop increments, you can set it up as well, so you can get precise ISO settings for you to use. And now the next thing we're going to look at is the aperture value, right here. Now here's the cool thing about aperture value. You all know how to change aperture value in kind of like a beginner DSLR, where you hold the AV button and then you just toggle the knob over here. The thing about shutter speed and also aperture value is that every 3 clicks you make, that is one stop. So for example, you're in 3.5 and you move 3 clicks away. 1, 2, 3. F5 is the next stop. It's one stop less light coming through. 7.1 is one stop less light coming through it. So 3 clicks away is one stop. So 1, 2, 3, that's one stop. That's one stop. 1, 2, 3, that's another stop. There's another stop again. And now I'm going to show you how is that possible. So let's say I am taking a meter reading of 3.5 and the reading is 200th of a second. I'll put the settings over here. Now this is showing me that this is in a 0 meeting. If I take that picture, it is exposed correctly. Now what happens if you want to expose it one stop lower? I will put this aperture to 3 clicks away. So 1, 2, 3. There you have it. It's one stop less. If I click another 3 clicks away, it's another one stop less. If I take that picture, it's going to be darker, obviously. It's going to be darker and one is lighter. So aperture value is always 3 clicks away from 3 clicks away is always one stop. Now for shutter speed, it's actually the same. 3 clicks away is equals to one stop thing. But then there's this rule about this. For example, you're in 1/15 of a second. The next stop is 130, because 130 is twice the amount of 115. So it's multiplied by 2 again. But to make things simpler, they're all 3 clicks away. So if you want to move one stop, so it's 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Just simple as that. Now we're going to go back to the normal exposed reading right here, 3.5 H and 1/200 of a second. It's saying it's exposed correctly. Now if we want to move this 1 stop lower, that means darker, we're going to move this shutter speed 3 clicks faster. So it's 1, 2, 3. Take that reading again. It's -1 now. And you notice that this is actually twice the amount of the 200. So that all makes sense. To take that shot, it is darker. Now what if we want it to be lighter? Now if you're at 200, if we times this by 2, it means it's 1 per 100. Or it's 3 clicks away again. If you take a look, 1, 2, 3, yes, it's 100. And it's telling us that is +1 EV. So it's going to be lighter than the one before, obviously. So there you have it actually. This is how you understand stops in your camera, and this is how you control lighting and so on. Hello guys, so we're back with the part 2 of this series, talking about the stops and so on. Before I talked about how to set up different stops in your camera, the ISO, aperture, and shutter speed. Now we're going to use that in practice of this little product shoot that we have of this deodorant bottle. We're going to use 1 flash and 1 camera. So now I'm going to find my perfect exposure for both my camera and the flash. So I'm going to create a nice picture. So the settings I'm going to use is f3.5. Shutter speed is 1/250 of a second, and the ISO is 100. I'll take the shot. You can see pictures popping out. Now this is actually showing me that it is a great exposure because I can see the colors correctly. I can see where everything is correct. Now since I'm shooting at 3.5 and it is kinda too shallow for me, the shallow depth of field, I want a really big focus range, let's say f8 or f9 or so on. So let's move it up to, let's say 3 stops higher. That's 1, 2, 3, f10. Remember what I said, 3 clicks before, and we're going to use that in practice. Now if I take that shot, that's going to be the picture. It's going to be darker, obviously, because we didn't change anything either in the flash or the camera. We only changed the aperture, that's all. That's going to make things darker. Now if you're shooting with flash, as you all know that if you move aperture 3 stops, you can move shutter speed 3 stops slower to compensate that. But in flash photography, I'll show you what happens if you move 3 stops. So that picture is taken at 1/30 of a second, which is 3 stops slower than 1/50 of a second, but still it's kind of dark. So shutter speed in flash product shoots like this doesn't really matter, so you can stick them at 250 a second. Now there are two ways you can change this. First, you can change back to f3.5 and just get used to it with that depth of field, or you can change the ISO, or you can change the flash power. If you still want your ISO to be 100, then you can change the flash power. Now, but if you're lazy to go to the flash and you don't really care about the quality, you can change your ISO 3 stops higher, and that's 800 this case, since 3 clicks away. But take that shot, ISO 800, shutter speed is 1250, f10. It's going to be correctly exposed like the picture we had before. Now, but what happens if you want to shoot at f100 still? Now you can change the flash by 3 stops higher. And now if you look at the flash right here, changing 3 stops higher is very simple. All you have to do is just click 1, 2, 3. And now you're 3 stops higher. So with that being changed, this flash power 3 stops higher. If I take that shot again, focus, shoot. That's gonna have the same exposure like I had before when I'm shooting that. So that is putting this kind of stuff, stops and so on, in practice. And this kind of practice is using flash product shoot. So I hope you enjoy. Peace out.